Hi and welcome to Material Notes for Cycles Render. Today we're going to do dice, but as you know, a dice is very easy to do, so what we are going to concentrate on is the notes, of course. It will be how you will use the principal shaders, how to do very simple UV unwrap, and how to texture it, and so on. Also a little bit about the light and how you do things in the compositor. As you can see right now, we do not have Blender started, and that is because we need a few things before we start. So first of all, you need some type of 2D tool to make the text for the Roman dice that I will build. So I will use GIMP, and you can do that if you want, or something else. So here you see gimp.org, downloads, you can have the latest version. So download that one, and we also need some images, some textures. And I will use the Polygon free textures for this session, and I will use 2 of them. So you have wood, fine, dark here, and that one you can use. And what you should do here is select the 2K resolution. That is okay for the tutorial today. You can of course take something higher if you want to, but I have used 2K here. Okay? And beside that one, we also will use the marble to the dice. So it's marble 062 that you should use, and also download the same or higher resolution for that one. Okay, now you have entered Blender, and what we will do right now is use the cube, not delete it. We will use it because we will build a dice. So just go to edit mode and take subdivide 4 times. So change the number of cuts to 4 and press enter. And after that we are almost finished, so it's not that hard to make a dice. We will do only one small thing, and that is, see, so you have the vertex selected, and then take every corner like this, select it, also in the bottom here, and just scale it with S just a little bit like that, so we don't get these hard corners. And then just press tab, and after that you can go to modifier, add modifier, and we select subdivision surface, and we can do that like 3 times. We are not working with more than a cube, so we don't bother about that one, it will be okay. And you can also select smooth. So the dice is now finished. Okay, now when we finish with this very fancy model of a dice, we need to UV unwrap it for this session. So press tab and go to edit mode and create a new window and select image, UV image editor. If you've done UV unwrap before, this is very easy, but if you haven't, just follow along and I will show you how it works. First of all, select shading UVs here, and there you have something called UV mapping, and we have a lot of things how to unwrap things. If we now press unwrap, nothing will happen because we have not selected anything here. So that means you can, if you want to, select parts of an object and do the unwrap on just that part. In our case, we will unwrap the complete dice here, so it will be that we select A for everything. And when we do that, and we are pressing unwrap as we have done here before, you will get this square. This square will not tell you if we are looking at this side or that side or whatever side we are looking at. So it's not very good to have it like that, because we are going to put Roman numbers of this dice, and then we need to know how tall a side is and where it resides. So we have to do something about this. So press A again, so we have it deselect, and after that we will put what we call seams to this object. So select the edges and hold down Alt and just select the edges that I select here. So Shift Alt like that. Do not select that side, only these three, and then select all the edges that goes down. So that one, hold down Shift Alt, that one, and that one. And when you've done that, you press Mark Seam, and you will see that they go red, every one of those. And what we have done now is that we have told Blender where the model should be unfolded. So this part here, this side, it will loosen here, here, and here, and fall down on that one, or on the floor here. And the same on this side, so that one will fall down here. And we do not have any seam here, which means that this complete part here will just unravel and be here. So to do that, we select everything, and then we press unwrap again. And now, since we have done these seams, we get a much clearer picture of where every side is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides on this one. We will use this as a template when we are making the Roman numbers. So we save that as an UV export UV layout, and you can put it wherever you want to. I have my place here, and you can call it dice UV.png. There are parameters you can put here, but it's okay just to use the ones that are set as default if you want to. So just press export UV layout, and it's saved. And now we will start doing the nodes, the material, but we will later on start using GIMP as well to make all those Roman numbers. But first it will be about the principal shaders and so on. So press tab again, and we can take away this window here, and we could take down that one and select the node editor here, and we could also have some light in an HDR picture. So select the word, use nodes, background, environment texture, and use with the forest as we have done in a lot of my previous sessions. Winter forest, ref HDR, and open image. And if you press render, you will see it's a white dice with nothing on it. You can press solid again. So now we are prepared for the nodes. We will start with just creating our material and take away the diffuse, and instead we will use something called principled, and that principle is a combination of the older nodes that we have used previously, and we will use it for creating the marble on the dice here. So as input we will have an image texture, so texture, image texture, and we will have 3 of those. So just Shift D and copy, Shift D and copy, so you have 3 of them. And we can go to render view here so you can see what's happening when I'm working. So the first one we will connect to base color after we have selected the marble for color, marble 62 color. So we select that one and connect it with base color. And now we have some marble texture on our dice. The next thing we will do is try to get something to shine here. And normally we use something glossy. So we take the gloss here and we should connect it here. But we can't see anything that is glossy here. We see something specular, but that is not the same thing. So what we should use instead is roughness. Roughness is quite the opposite to glossy. Glossy is how much it will reflect, and roughness is how much we could do to avoid reflection. But all we have to do is take the glossiness and invert it. So Shift A, color, and invert. And connect the color here, and connect the color to roughness. And you will see it shining here now. Since this one is gray, please change that to non-color data here. And finally, we have the one here, and this is used to create all the bumps and so on that we have in the material. So we press open here and find the normal that we will use for the bumps and put it here. But we cannot take the normal directly here because this is blue, so we have to Shift A, vector, and use the normal map, which we connect with the color here, and then take the normal to this one. And this will change a little bit for that one, and this will be non-color data here. As you can see, it changed a little bit, but non-color data, even if it's yellow, the marble should be non-color data when we're working with normal. Okay. So now we have our dice here, and it looks like marble, but we see very few patterns on every side, and also there are a lot of sides where it's a clear line between that side and this side here. So we should check that out a little bit. So please go to Solid again and press Edit, and we create an image view here as well. So UV image editor, and what you can see now is the old UV map. It could be that you had it on the other way around like this, but it's you can rotate it as you want to. It's good if you have it either like that or like that or like that, but not like this, because that will be harder in when we're working with the Roman numbers later on. But see, so you have it straight in any direction. Okay. Now let's go to the triangle here, and now we have UV map here. Since we're working with image textures, they normally take the first UV map they find for that object. So they are now using this one on all those three pictures on the marble texture. So let's get the marble texture here. So now we have the marble texture, and if you now see what I see, then you can see that this is one size for the side, and this is quite another side for the marble. And to get the texture, the complete texture on one side, this should be about the same size as the texture. So we have to change that. And to do that, without screwing up what we have done for the numbers, we have to do a new UV map. So press plus here, and we could call this dice here. We could call that one Roman number, and then we know a little bit about it. And if we look now at rendered, we have this one here as before, but if I do changes, go to the dice here now and scale up I expect this to change, but nothing happens. Why is that? It's because that, as I said before, that input here, if you do not put anything here, it will take the first one. It will take the Roman number here, or the one that has the camera highlighted, so you can change it by changing the camera here. But normally that is the first one. So what we should do to be extra clear is to add an input for UV map where we're telling them that we will use the dice instead, and put the dice in here. And suddenly you see now the pattern is more like the texture that we changed. So we can put that on all those 3 images that we have, like this. And we will see everything we do here. So if we do changes with scale, or we use a G to grab and then move them around, we can, if we are lucky, find something that works rather nice. And by that, something like that. However, this is not a perfect cube, so we still have a rather harsh break between some of those edges here. So there is another way to make it a little bit softer and better when working with this dice. We should use that thing instead of the UV map that I've created here. But this thing, I hope you understand now. So you can change the UV map exactly as you want to for getting it to work with the texture that you have. So you can scale, you can rotate and so on. And it will, of course, affect this here. So if you go and look at, if you do some rotation here, you will see that the pattern changes on the stone as well. Okay? But as I said, this is more like the theory behind, so you can use it when you will do more advanced thing than just the box. Now we will fix the edges. So we go to, we can take solid again. We go to tab here, so we go to object mode. We can take away the image like that. And now we have to fix those edges. Let's go back to rendered. It's easy to see when we fix them. What I will do now is I will completely remove the UV map for this one, and then we go back to the first one. Remember, it's now using the first UV map, and that is why it looks like it does here. But as I said, we should not use UV at all. So input texture coordinate, and on the texture coordinate use the generated. Put generated in every vector here. So one there, one here. Now we are forcing the texture to be from the generated instead from the UV. However, it doesn't look so good because it's all fine at the top but not on the sides. Well, that's very easily changed, because now you can change to box here, and you can change to box here, and of course to box here. And now we have almost the same that we did with the dice UV map, but we are not using the dice UV map. We are using generated here. So why should I use this way? Because we now have another parameter called blend. And blend, it blends between or mix between those sides, so it gets a smoother line between the edges or between the changes of sides. So if we just go up a little bit like this, you see now it's almost invisible. So just put that to like 0.1, something like that, and do that on everyone, so we are using all the textures with the same scale. And then you're finished with the first part to just put a basic texture on the dice. The next step we will do is smudge the edges a little bit so they get dirty here. We put in some scratches and so on, so it will be a used dice and not this completely new one. And that we will use the tool GIMP to. So now remember where you put that UV template that you saved earlier, and also save your work so you don't lose it on the way, and go to GIMP. Then I've opened GIMP with Dice UV as a layer, and right now it's rather easy to think how the dice looks in 3D. You can see this is one side, this is one side, and so on. What we're going to do is add some smudge and dirt into this dice, and we have to use our imagination and think about where will this dice be smudged, where will it be dirty. And normally that will be on the edges, and even more so on the corners. So what we will do is just take something to spread something on and change this to, let's say, something like this, and start to paint around where we think it is. I will, now you can see it's in Swedish here, but I think you can follow anyway. So I will just show it for a little bit larger, so I think I go in a bit, and perhaps also change the size of the brush. And now I have the Dice UV here, so I don't want to paint on this one. I will use that for the Roman numbers so on. So I now add a layer as well. And the first layer I will have as transparent. So, and I can call that for like Dice Smudge, something like that. And keep the size that we had for the template. Just press OK. Then we have the Dice Smudge. We have the UV to follow without destroying it in a separate layer. So now we can just paint on the Dice Smudge where we think it should be. So I just click here, and you will not see that much because of since the background is transparent, and since we are not using so much of the paint, it should just be a very small amount of it, so we can have some dirt on the side, but it should not be totally smashed, just a little bit. So I now add a little bit here, and as I said, I follow the edges more or less to have it a little bit destroyed. And then I add even more on the corners, since I believe it will be more wearness on each corner than it will be on the edges. So I just click there a couple of more times, and you can do it as you like, and you can perhaps save 3 or 4 types of images and save and use the one that you think will be the best for you. Okay, let's say I'm finished now. The next step I will do is just add a white background, because to make the bumps work, you need something that works in a grayscale, so you should not use the transparent in this case. So just add another layer, but I put it as a white background, and I take it like this, and now you can see where I have painted everything. So it's follow along the UV map rather well, and this template we don't need that one, so just remove it. And after that we will save it, so export as, and then just call it like Dice Smudge or something like that, and remember where you place it, and press have a PNG, it will work best, and then export, and then you have it. So go back to Blender after that, and when you are here and you look at the render view, you have now the marble as before, but without any smudge. So how to apply the smudge? That you can do in several ways. We are now using the principle here, and if you remember, we have in previous session used normal to add smudge. We have a normal already, and to combine those two, the normal here and the new one, is just Shift D to copy this one, and in open here we select the dice match, and after that we need to create a vector for this one as well. So Shift A, vector, and use bump here. Non-color data, correct, put that in here, but change the box to flat. We are now working with the flat image because we will work with the UV image here. So put an input UV map in here, tell this image to go using this one, and select the Roman number UV that we have. Then it's how to combine these two, and that you can do like this: Shift A, converter, vector math, and put vector math here, and change that to average. Now it will use this normal map, and it will use this normal map and take the average from both vector and combine it to a normal. And that means that we now have the smudge, and it follows along rather well on the dice. You can see where it looks like it have been hit by small rocks and so on, and it looks good. Perhaps a little bit strong, and then you just take down the strength a bit here, and right here about, I think it will look nice. So now you have the smudge as well into this dice. So now it's just about applying the numbers. Then we are back in GIMP again, and as you can see, I have now loaded a template that we started with, dice uv.png, and here I will put the Roman numbers on the dice. The only thing we have to think about is dices are built like the opposite side always have the sum of 7. So if I put like 1 here, I need to put 6 here, and so on. After that, it's just to go. So I have selected a font, Baskerville Oldface, but you can select what you like for your dice. And I set the size to 180. After that, it's just to put the numbers in here. So I put 1 here, Roman 1. Can move it so I get it wherever I want to. And then I put the next one, and since this is 1, I need to put 6 here, so I just put the number 6 here. And the Roman for number 6 is V and I. It could be that I need to do a small adjustment here as well, so I just move it around until I found a good place to have it. And then I take the next one, and I make, let's say, 3 here. So it's 3, it's 1, 2, 3, okay. Now it could be also that we should rotate these numbers a little bit, so it will be more natural. I think this one should be upside down, and these two should be with the bottom facing the one here. So we just select one of these, like say number 4, and then rotate it a bit. It should be like 90 degrees here. I think like that. And we do the same with... Now I think it's really good. So we just archive and export as, and this we will call dice row numbers, like this. Press export, and then put it like that. Now we have, oh sorry, I also need to take away this. It will not be good to have the template visible, so we take that away. So just export to dice row. Now, okay, should look like this: foreground, the numbers, and then transparent background. Now back to Blender, and we could have this in a render view, so you can see the numbers here as well. Now we have this marble here, and we should have the numbers, so we just add an input, texture, image texture, and open, and we will find the dice row number here, and that one we connect to shader diffuse, color here, and if I just connect it to this, you see it will be completely black, and that is not exactly what we want. First of all, we would like to use this UV, so we have to put it in here. So we do that. We take Shift A, input UV map, connect it with this one, say that we would like to use the Roman number, but still we only have a black dice here, so we have to do a little bit more. And the next thing we will do is to add a mix shader to combine this one with this one. And when we do that, we put that in the bottom, we put that here, and then we take this and put that one here, like this. If it will, may have to. Okay, so now we have it connected, but we can't see the numbers still. So what to do? We then can use the alpha here, as you can see, and we put the alpha here, and suddenly you can see the numbers. Looks great. We have a dice. And now we add a white background. So we just go to a new layer, add a white background, and we can put that in last here. So now we have all the numbers present. And now we will take all these layers and we take and put them together, so all the layers will be only one layer here, and then we blur these images a little bit, and that we do because we want to have a smooth edge when the numbers go down into the dice. So we take a tool, take the operation, select blur some, and then we put a radius on that one, so it's just like a very small blur, like this, 2 or 3, something like this, just so it's not too sharp. And then press OK, archive, export as, and that we can take as dice bump. And then we save that one. Or we could take dice Roman no bump. So then we really know it's about the Roman number. Then we can take export. So I go back to Blender again. Now we should add those into our material. So just Shift A and texture, image texture, and select the dice Roman number bump. And as input you will all use this one as well. So you can just drag like that and use this UV map to both of these. And then you connect that to a vector. So vector, bump, and you don't need any color data for that one. Put it on height here and put that one to normal. And now we connected a bump to the diffuse. We should see something here, but as you can see, it doesn't show much of a bump here. So something is not quite right. And that is because we also need some reflection back. So we cannot use only diffuse. And as I now put this to black instead of using this color here, then we have an easy way to control it, because then we can just change a little bit here how we want it to be, and then we use just the image for the alpha. But we also we need more than changing this, we also need glossy. So we put in Shift and Shader and Glossy, connect that here, and we use the same normal as we use for the diffuse, and we mix those together. So Shift and Shader, mix shader, and then I just connect these two here and take away that one and connect that to this one. And if we can now go out a little bit, you can see that we now have a good amount of bump. It's going in here. We can of course change how much bump we want. We can also change the color to the dice, so we can have it a little bit red if we want to, or we could change the glossiness to a little bit more, and so on. So now it looks rather nice here. We have everything as we want to, and the only thing left to do now is to make scratches on the surface for the numbers as well. Then I'm back to GIMP again, and to make wearness we work with the dice row no PNG that we started with, and as this work as an alpha, it tells Blender where it should put numbers and where it should be transparent. So what we will do here to make it wear is to remove some of the blackness on these numbers. So we can just go in a little bit and zoom like this, and take the rubber here and start to take things away. Find a good brush. I think we could use smoke. It would be okay. Take down the opacity a bit, and you're good to go. And awareness will be mostly on the edges and just some in the middle, and you just write along a little bit how you want the awareness should to be. So a quick paint over here. Okay, then after that you could export it, so you don't have to overwrite that dice or none, so just export as dice Ronan something else. I have used dice Ronan wordhead, and you can do that if you want to, or use another name and export. The next thing you will do is go back to Blender and change the dice that we have here to the new one. So put where here. And as soon as you do that, the numbers will be transparent on those places where you took away the black. And it looks that it has been used a little bit. Now we also would like, I believe, to put some bumps on this to get it more realistic, and that we can easily do with the built-in texture like noise, for instance. So then we just add Shift A texture, noise texture, and connect this by mixing the RGB. So Shift A, color, mix RGB, put them together, and by that, and take that scale like 50 or something like that. Then you see you get a lot of bumps as well. We don't like that amount of bumps, so just take the FSC down until it looks natural here. So now you have awareness and also some color that goes up and down, which looks a little bit, yeah, realistic. So then we are finished with part one, making one dice look good. Then it's time to make the floor. You can go back to solid and be sure that you have object mode, and then we just press Shift A, mesh, plane, S 20 to scale it up to 20, and just move it down a bit, so G set -1 or something like that. Now you have a good floor, and then you just take object and apply scale. And this one is, we will use the principal shader on this one as well, and we just go to material and new, and there we have it, and take away diffuse and use the principal, put that into the surface here, and we could use a rendered, so we will see the floor now. And now we add those three textures as well. So image texture 1, Shift D, 2, Shift D, 3. Okay, like this. The plane should not use the UV map that we have for the dice, of course. So we can go to solid here and be sure that you select the plane, and after that edit, and since it's just one simple plane, in this case it's just to press unwrap, so we get some UV map to work with. And if you look here on the triangle, you will see it's UV map. Okay, that is the name of it. So now we can get back to object mode and render view to see what we're doing. Take the first one, wood, fine, darkness, color. Okay, and connect the color to the base color here. So now we have a good color here, and the next step is to take the glossy here, so open, and we find wood, fine, dark, glossy. And as you remember, we have to do an invert on that one, so color, invert, and put it here, non-color data and put it on roughness. Now you see it's shining good here, but it's looking a little bit flat, so we also need the last one, the normal. So open again and take the normal here and put in a vector normal map, put that to the color, put the normal to normal here, and put that to non-color data. Now keep the color data. When we work, I said before that we should use non-color data, and that we should use when we're working with bumps. But when we are working with a normal map, then it will be yellow to yellow, so it will be color here, and as you can see it will also get a much better result here. So sorry about that. Normal to normal, when normal map is used, color. Okay, now we're finished with the floor and the dice. So the next step we will do is to duplicate this dice. So we go to solid, select the dice, and just press Shift D and drag that one, Shift D and drag that one, Shift D and drag it. You could also put these a little bit higher up. So take those three, not the last one, and put them up like this, something like that. Okay, and be sure that they don't touch each other. What we'll do now is make rigid bodies out of these, because I want them to fall down, and by that create a motion blur that we will use on our render. So I take the first one, I go to the physics tab, and I put add active. I do the same on the next one, and I do that on the third one, but on the fourth one I will put add passive, and on the floor I will also put add passive. So I have 1, 2, 3 active and 1/4 that is passive. If I now press play here, you will see that those three will fall down and they will crash against the floor, but the fourth will not move, and that is good. To create the motion blur, you need motion from one image to the next, and if you have a lot of motion it will be a lot of blur and so on. So to create more motion, because right now they are just crashing down and almost still after that, so create more bounciness is what we need. So we take the first one, we take the friction down a bit and the bounciness up, and we do the same with the other two here. So down with the friction, up with the bounciness, and down with the friction, up with the bounciness. And we do the same with the floor. So down here and up here. And if you now look when I press play, you will see that they really are going in different directions and so on, in a more moving way. Could be that we should take the friction even more down. So I take it all the way to 0 here, have it to 0 here, and 0 there, and 0 there, and let's see what happens. Okay, they are going all the way here. Yeah, they're going with a lot of motions, and that is what we want. So when I now take it like this, and I take view, camera, and I press N to get this menu, lock camera to view, and I select it like, I don't know, like this perhaps. I don't want to see any background, so like that. And I do a render from this and press motion blur. Then you will see that on this render there will be movement, which make that 3 of these will have motion blur and 1 will be absolutely still. So by having that still, okay, we have to change this a little bit. Then if I go like this and take a render again, it will be like with a lot of motion, and 1 that is perfectly still. And that adds a lot of realism to our image that we will use later on. So that is how we do this part. Now we should add some light into this image, and we can take away lock camera to view here. And what we also can do is lower the floor a little bit. So I take G, set and go down here a little bit like that. And if you looked at my picture in the start, the end result that you hopefully will get, you will see that these are working very hard with the rim light, not so much with the front light. So what we will do to make that is take Shift A and add a plane and scale that up like to, I don't know, 5, something like that. And now we can just put it so we have it between the floor and the dice. We can look at the camera, view camera, so perhaps that should be moved a little bit like this, and also scale it up even more so we cover the camera completely, something like that. And after that we also will put in new material for this light, and that will of course would be emission. And if you see render now, it will be a lot of light here. We could strengthen the light as well to get this. And now the next step is that we will not see this plane. It's not good to see that one. So we go to the object here, cycle settings, take away the camera and take away the shadow. Now we have a good rim light, but we can still see the light on the floor, and that we would like to avoid. So how to do that? It's rather easy when you know how. So just press solid, and we still have our emission plane here. So just duplicate it, Shift D, G, and then take it down a little bit and scale that even more like this. And take material, take away the material for that plane and just add a new one. The new one will be diffuse. And if we now look at the render, you can see that now we have a plane here that, since it's diffuse, take away a lot of the reflection, almost all the reflection. We can also hide that one exactly as we have done with the other one. So that is how it looks if we don't hide it, and now we hide it. So by hiding that diffuse plane, it will not show the plane, and we will take away the light from the bottom here, and we will get a really nice rim light on those dices we have here. So if you now look at the camera, it looks really nice. The next step we can do is take a closer look on how marble looks, because marble let some of the light shine through the stone. It has some transparency in it. So what we should do is also change the material of the dies so it will be the subsurface scattering. So that is the next thing we do, and we can go to solid and select a dies so we get the material. And now we have a rather big node, a rather big tree of nodes here. But as you can see, we have, even in the principles, the subsurface here. So it's rather easy to change that one. So if we go to render again, and we take subsurface and go up a little bit, you can see that the marbles are now changing. We could also decide how much of each color that should go through the marble here. So we can just put that lot of the red, nothing of the green, and perhaps nothing of this one, a little bit of both these we can take like that. When you have found subsurface scattering that is working for you, and you think that perhaps the numbers are a little bit too shiny and so on, you can of course go down and change the glossy to take it down a little bit. And you could also, if you think it's too much, you can add or lower the total strength of the word until you go and get exactly what you want in the type of light that you want. And that is all when it comes to the light. And the next step will be how to add the fog. And it's rather easy that as well. So we just go to solid, and after that we take the plane that we have here and we copy that as well. Shift D, and then we take that up a little bit. So now we have one as well. We can take it even more, something like this. And here we will make a fog material. So if we now go to the material again, and in this case we will take away the material, we will go to the box and add camera and add shadow. So the top layer will have camera and shader on. So if we now look at the render here, you will see here is one plane that we can see. That is where the fog will be. So if we take the view and the camera again, we now go into the material and press new for that plane, we will start making the fog. Take away the diffuse and instead add an emission. Put it in here, and now of course it will light some. The next thing you will do is put an input of texture coordinate. As you see, generated we can use, but we will also have a converter into this. So we put a converter separate XYZ, and we put the two color ramp. So converter again, color ramp, and that color ramp we will use from, we can take X, I think that will be good. And the emission, we will also combine that one with, let's see if we can find it, transparent, and we mix those two together like this, and we take the color here and put it here, and now you can see, now it's taken. I will show you. If I move this one, you will see we have like a fog, a very sharp fog, a little less sharp fog, but there is a fog. If you want, you can of course change the way it works. So now it's the fog comes from this direction instead. We could also take, instead of X, we could take Y, for instance, and let it go like this and change as we want to. And if we want to have a fog from here, we just do like this. Now this is very straight line, and that is perhaps not what you want. Well, then it's just to add a noise as well. So just Shift A, texture, noise, combine those two. So color, mix RGB, put them together, and now you have a noise, and you can use it as much or as little as you want to get a good noise, and just play around till you find a good way to combine these. You can scale the noise up or down. And then you have to play with the numbers to get it working as you like. Something like this. And if you can't get these to work, then of course you can move the complete plane a little bit to get it a little bit as you want, and perhaps scale it or move it, rotate, whatever you want. And in this case, I think for my sake, is now finished, and I just press render here, and I will get a fog. Oh, sorry, you can see it here. So I just take one more. I move my plane a little bit more like that, and then I press render. So now I have my dices on. I have some fog, I have a background, I have some blur on the dice as well, except the one in the front. And the only thing that is now left to do is to add some compositing. The final touch of the image you will do in the compositor. So just go to the compositor, pressing here, use nodes, backdrop, auto render, and now if I do changes up here, it will be reflected here as well. And we would put in just a filter, some glare here to have some impact. We can have some fog glow, I believe, and take just a little bit of that one here. But we should also have some more speed to this image. So what I will do more is I will add another one called Sunbeam here. And I will also use a color mix where I put these together. And now I'm only using the Sunbeam. That one is now black. But if I connect it with this image here and I add some ray length, you can see I now get sunbeams from every dice, and I can, by changing the reflection here, tell it should go from a specific direction. So if I want my dices, if it's called dices, I think it is, go like in a specific direction, as I said, I can just change that. I could add some more railing to it. And now they're like flying from this. And then I just change the FIC here, and you will have a really nice effect where you can see your dices going through the air with some fog in the background and so on. And finally, as a touch, you add some color balance. Put it in here, and could then change, put it perhaps a little bit darker, some yellow color on it, not green but yellow like that, perhaps. Yeah, even more, you can play it as you want, so it gets this soft touch, a little bit old, you see, like that. Yeah, and then it's finished. So now you have everything: moving dice, Roman figures, a good marble, some speed and fog and so on the result, and it's finished. So if you want to see my future videos, don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something today as well. Bye!